The city of Brighton is well known throughout the country for its vibrant and bohemian nightlife, with its quirky, independent and strange shops, bars, pubs and clubs. It is visited by thousands of stag and hen do's a year, as well as an eclectic mix of the arts, businesses and biggest student community in the UK. So with this reputation of independence, quirkiness and nightlife with a difference, how does this actually measure up? We interviewed 4 people all with an insight into the pub industry in Brighton. Stephen Lentz has worked all over the country in a mixture of managed houses and chain bars all of his life. We asked Steve what he expected from Brighton in terms of working in bars and clubs.
I think Brighton nightlife is a bit different, meant to be a bit kooky, quite individual.
It's got to be one of the best cities in the country, I would have thought, for stuff to do when the sun goes down.
James Kendall is the editor of local nightlife bible Source magazine. He informs us what his magazine principles are.
We try to support people. Our magazine's all about supporting people in Brighton. So Weatherspoons, etc. aren't from Brighton, and they can kind of look after themselves, and we're here to kind of support people that are, it could really do with like a help up, like independent creative people that are doing something interesting, whether that's making records or making clothes or doing art or running a pub or a venue. They're the sort of people that we like to write about and support. Weatherspoons, there's not really anything to write about with Weatherspoons. Like, you could print a list of the price of their beer and that's about all that happens there, like cheap booze. There's nothing really interesting going on there.
With over 2,000 independent pubs closing down last year in the UK, and 59 of those in Brighton alone, what extent has this affected Brighton's drinking community?
I think the lack of free houses is just kind of an unfortunate circumstance of how this industry now works. If you haven't got buying power, you can't supply at the price. If you haven't got the demand at that particular price, then you're not going to have the custom. And unfortunately, when companies like Mitchells and Butlers and like Spirit Group as well, who are equally on the same playing field, buy out most of the market, their ability to buy in at much lower prices is huge, whereas the independents are tied to astronomical barrel prices.
As more commercial chains move into the city, are they threatening and changing the bohemian reputation of Brighton? Is it really any wonder that landlord pubs are struggling to survive, or is it specific to the pub and the responsibility of the landlord to survive in such an unforgiving economic climate? We asked Ben, a local landlord from the Temple Bar on Western Road, what he thinks how the pub industry has changed since the recession and the increasing pressure on pubs to adapt.
It's changing, it's changed. I mean, we are a traditional pub. However, come the weekends, you can probably compare us to a nightclub more or less. You know, we're rammed full, all the stalls are gone, you know, music's loud, people drinking spirit and mixers. It's like a club in here. During the week it's not like that, so we adapt ourselves. The pub has to be adapted.
However, Paul gives us an insight into what it's really all about.
It comes down to cost. Yeah. It all comes down to cost. If you can't sell at a good price, you're not going to have the customers in. Unfortunately, it's becoming more and more evident over the last few years that VAT increases on tax on alcohol and duty. The more that they put them up, the more pressure that's put on this industry, and the more pubs that close. The overall amount of pubs that actually ended up shutting last year was in the region of 1,200. If you look at that, it's about 25 pubs a week that were closing due to the fact that they just can't afford to buy stock anymore.
But for those pubs who have survived, it seems that they have had to change, with the smoking ban in 2007 completely changing the industry. The
smoking trade's completely changed the industry. Getting rid of it has turned us from pubs into restaurants. That's simple. If you didn't become more food-led, you're not going to survive.
With food sales increasing for our manager of a chain pub, have things changed for our Brighton pub landlord in terms of dry-led sales?
I think it has driven food sales in pubs, not in this particular pub it hasn't, no, but it has I've seen it in other pubs driving sales, yeah. But I mean, I don't know, I mean, I think people still, I think, you know, the drinking culture's gone down because of that as well, in a way, but to say that the smoking ban has, you know, lost your business is a bit of an excuse.
In 2009, the amount of independently owned free houses fell far more rapidly than those that were managed, tenanted or leased houses.
Supermarket pricing has driven it down a hell of a lot, which means that people can, you know, obviously it's to do with generally the downturn anyway, with people spending money. People, you know, can't afford things so much anymore. However, as well, I mean, there are some chain bars as well, not to mention any names, but Weatherspoons and things like that, that you start driving the price of beer down.
Good pub scene, good clubs, but I found it's quite similar, no different to kind of anywhere else I've been. You have got your individual pubs and your individual personality pubs, but generally it's commercially run. You've got a lot of the places in Brighton, the same as you should have anywhere else, like West Street, for example, is your kind of your chain places that lack a lot of personality.
Yeah, there's still like plenty of fighting, like little pubs, and like if you're doing your own little thing and it's yours and you haven't got a boss, you're doing it for yourself, you're working really hard to do something good, or you should be anyway. So it's that David and Goliath thing. Like if you really want it, you can beat the big guy.
Has Brighton really changed? Has Brighton really been infiltrated by corporate giants? The majority of local people choosing to resist a cheap thrill, there will always be a place for those standout independent pubs in Brighton.